Hello, chicks. Hello, chicks. So I got some issue right now. I've been looking for the environment.ts in Angular 15, and I can't find it. And the reason why is, yeah, it's here. Angular 15, what happened to environment.ts? They really removed it. Okay, too long, didn't read, nothing. Angular 15 simply doesn't ship any more environment files by default. You can still create them and configure their placement based on build target as it was done automatically at project creation in previous versions. A misunderstood purpose. The origin of the confusion arising lately about the missing of these files in new project created with ng-cli at version 15 has its roots in the misconception that src environments environment.ts and src environments environment.prod.ts were kind of scared sacred paths hard-coded in the deepest guts of Angular framework. Reality is that they were just a convenience default choice with no reference in codebase, and that could have been substituted with different paths and names with no harm to the application. Okay, so we don't have anything to fear here. Original rule. The only place in code where you could find them referenced at project creation was main.ts, generated with something like this. Yep, that's true. Let's look for our main.ts. So in the previous version in main.ts, there's a environment and enable prod mode. So let's take a look um, in our main.ts. Do we still have main.ts and Angular 15? Yeah, we do still have main.ts. We still have platform, browser, dynamic, bootstrap, app module, cache. So the only thing that was removed by default, the only thing that was removed that is not by default added is the, oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so this one here, they removed this. The only place in code where you could find them referenced at project creation was main.ts, generated with something like this. Their environment dot production property was used to check if the build just booted had to enable prod mode or not. This function was turning off a flag. Yes, the flag is indeed is dev mode and not is prod mode. Huh? Like one could expect. Actually checked in Angular code base to toggle some debugging features, most evident of which is the familiar message log in console. Angular is running in development mode. Call enable prod mode to enable production mode. When the flag is true, it means we are running a development stage of our app. So we want the framework to be more verbose in warnings and consoles, and even to be a bit more pedantic, checking situations that are not an error per se, but that could lead to undesired. My mind is now floating out in outer space, and I don't My mind is not on what I'm reading right now, so it happens all the time. It's how my brain works. So let's focus. But that could lead to undesired and often erroneous behavior in production. Famous one is surely expression has changed after it was checked. Responsible for verifying our data binding. Okay, originally Angler had no way to switch this flag other than putting the function in a file parse at Bootstrap. Black magic of file replacement. People tended to accept the interpretation of the correct file to load as fate without questioning how the framework was capable of reading environment.ts or environment.prod.ts according to the target build of choice. The answer was nothing the answer was nothing involving deep understanding of the Angular inner mechanism, but just the use of a nice feature offered by its builder. That was parsing configuration for choosing target, was instructed to take in account file replacements array showing the substitution defined in its object. This was default config for production builds some versions ago. Nothing was preventing us to add new replacements or change the default one, but if the latter, we should have considered to modify our main.ts to check in the right file for the environment.production property it used to toggle production flag. What changed in version 15? Last major release of Angular leverages a different system to toggle production flag. It lets optimization builder option by default pass to production build target set global ng dev mode to false without having to parse any env file. This change took off the only reason to have any environment file in the beginning, leading devs to get rid of them completely and obviously removing default file replacement occurrences in build targets configuration. Why people are freaking out? Looking at what we read so far, it looks like this new approach is not something that should affect majority of Angular application developers, being it more an internal of the framework. Thing is that being these files also generated a project creation and correctly managed on a build target basis, it became common practice using them to store a bunch of values that need to be switched between production and development build. Usually this involve address of API servers to connect and auth providers configurations without finding the files were expected on newly generated projects. People who never had been interested in understanding how they ever work didn't know where to put this data, unaware of the simplicity of manually reproducing the original setup. Lazy, lazy solution. After the huge amount of complaints about this, Angular devs choose to restore on default something similar to the old version in so from that version onwards, having environment files in place after creating a project is as simple as issuing ng generate environments. That, as explained in docs, will create them in and configure build and server targets to use them. In short, it will create adding the latter as a replacement of the former to build. Okay, but why they didn't think of that before? The habit of putting environment variables inside those files is less straightforward than it could seem. Even if their name and their use could lead to look at them as the ideal spot for such environment. In real case scenario, they're far from best solution. Data like domains, endpoints, ports, and alike are not bound only to building target, but often more tightly to deployment context. That's why many people prefer to keep them outside the building process and let the app evaluating them at runtime as token injected at deploying, maybe as environment variable of those. Let's check if somebody replied to my chat. Nobody replied. Where are we right now? That's why many people prefer to keep them outside of building process and let the app evaluating them at runtime as token injected at deploying, maybe as environment variables of the hosting framework or Docker bundling. Read by a minimal server-side process and exposed as API, or even passing them and dedicated configuration file inserted as asset by pipeline as explained in this awesome article from good. Now, this should be clear. There's been no change in environment variables management by Angular, just an upgrade that made an old, easy, convenient configuration not needed anymore, leading to reconsider what had always been a habit that often was a suboptimal solution, but that's available as it always has been. Angular needs to get rid of this and add .env support out of the box. Thanks. Okay, so let's give a credit to whoever wrote this article. This is from Tia. Who's Tia? This is Angular. Free, open, and honest Angular education include. This is Angular. Okay. Inclusive Angular publication free from conflict of interest. This publication is all about sharing Angular knowledge for free and not at all about money or KPIs. Cross posts are welcome. Part of this is learning. All right. So thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I don't have to fear. I just need to ng generate environment. So let's go to our app ng generate environment. A collection and static is required during execution. Huh? What? ng generate environments ng generate environments. All right, so it did. Let's try it, see what will happen. Let's go to our Angular exercises and let's generate new env web. I used to call you my girl. Used to call you my friend. Dang, dang, dang. Used to call you to learn. Dang, dang, dang. Right. So it did edit here and the development name chunks true. Then yeah, environments. Okay, added environments. So my guitar is in the other room. That's why I can't play a guitar right now while waiting for this to complete. Um, yeah, maybe should we wait? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so let's go to env web and then let's ls and then let's open that thing. First, we need to add this so that we'll know what will change. Okay, and then let's push this. And then let's go to env again. Okay, so let's see. Look at this, kids. So usually there should be, when you create a new project in Angular, there's a environment. There's a folder for the environment, and it will have the environment.ts and environment.dev, environment.prod.ts. Now it's not here anymore. So what you need to do is just ng generate environments, and that's gonna in generate environment for us. All right, so there you go, environments. So we now have environments, and why is it not showing in our get here? Is our get not working? A get repository is found in the parent folders of the workspace of the, yeah, there should be some changes. Yeah. So, and if you go to the angular.json, it's gonna add here in here. Yeah, this gonna add this file in here. So replacement, if, yeah, it's just gonna replace the environment with what you're gonna set in the environment, that development. And once you add prod production, this one here, it will, um, you can also set up the files for the production. Let's check here. Yeah. Yep, so that's it, children of the world. All right. Ciao.